ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. Yes, I'm back for the fourth time today, the last time till Black Friday. It's been an amazing morning. Shout out to Scotty Webb, Andrew McGinnis, Matt Grissom, as we've covered all the bases, pucks, props, thoughts, you name it, we've covered it. And now blessed and honored to have good friend and colleague, Mr. Ron Marmolevsky, live from LA, to talk some NCAA and NFL like no other. But first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download that app. It is free. And of course, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Terry Smith does it like no other. Steaks, seafood, chops, appetizers, wines. He's got it all. Let him set up your Christmas, whether it's for family, whether it's for friends, or whether it's for yourself. Treat yourself like I do. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Mr. Ron Marmolevsky. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning. Happy early Thanksgiving to you and to everybody watching live or watching not live. Maybe you catch us before Thanksgiving. Maybe you catch us while you're preparing the turkey. But happy to be here to talk football one more time before Thanksgiving.
You know, Ron, 3 great games in the NFL, all teams fighting for playoffs but the Bengals, the return of Joe. And then on Friday, you got a Bears team that everyone wants to just throw under the bus, almost duplicating the run of the Patriots. And an Eagle team that got caught chewing their food up 21-0, and they forgot to come out second half. They lose 24-21. But we don't start in the NFL here. We always start in college. And it's rivalry week, and there are so many games that could cause that train wreck. We used to every year get at least one weekend where there was chaos. What a weekend this could be. If a Bama loses, an A&M loses, an Ole Miss loses, coaching carousels, Jim Mora to Colorado State out of nowhere. Okie State's got their guy. Arkansas's got their guy. But Lane Kiffin doesn't know where he's going.
Yeah, it's crazy here. You know, I'm trying to prep for all the stuff that I need to do this week, last week of the year, with so much coming to a head. You know, I like to write. I haven't published as much of the writing, but I've got papers flying everywhere on this desk. I'm glad you don't see in the camera where you see all these papers and stuff like that. And one of the things, the exercises I like to do as I write for each week is what matters and what doesn't. And I'm looking at the SEC and I'm writing, frantic notes as to, well, this team needs to win. This team needs to win. How many bids are they going to have? It's really crazy. And all eyes are going to be on a number of teams in the SEC, plus what happens with Notre Dame, plus what happens in the Big 12, and plus what happens with Michigan. So we have a lot undecided, yet what are we, Wednesday now? So we're, 72 to 80 hours away from deciding everything, but it's chaos right now.
Well, let's start in the conference you didn't bring up, and that's the ACC, something that no one wants to talk about because everyone wants Miami in. Well, Miami's got to travel to Pitt, and Pitt looked like Dan Marino and world beaters last week in Georgia Tech, and now this Miami team must win, and not even potentially in the ACC title game where one of those two teams has to win and get in. I don't think many people want to see a two ACC team in the dance here, Ron.
We had it last year. We saw two last year, but those teams were in the title game. If Miami's not in the title game, I vehemently disagree with people who think they should be in the 12-team playoff, because in this era of nil and roster turnover, it used to be 5 or 6 teams turned over the roster. Now 95 teams turn over the roster. What you look like week one is so different than now. Notre Dame went to Miami and lost by 3. And Notre Dame's roster, we know that so many people were picked up, especially defensively, from the by the NFL. Notre Dame's a completely different team now, and I think, well, first of all, I don't reward road losses as much as, let me say that again. I'm mixing up my words. Home wins are nice, but road wins are more important to me. Road losses are damaging to me. Road home losses are more damaging to me. I really messed that up. But basically, what I want to say is the fact that Notre Dame lost on the road isn't damaging to me week one when the roster was so different. They're completely different teams, and they played a tough schedule down there. I don't think does Miami have a signature win lately? I don't really know. I think a home loss to Louisville, it doesn't stand up. I don't have Miami in the picture.
Notre Dame put up a 70 burger against Syracuse last week. They're cooking with Crisco. Their 2 losses opening week at Miami by a field goal, and then 2 weeks later, a 1-point loss to undefeated A&M. So again, this is a team that was in the title game last year. I think, in all due respect, they do deserve to be in, and they will be in there. Go to the Big House. A number that was high as 13.5, now down to a flat 10. The Ohio State defense against the Michigan offense. Both sides of this one. Michigan wins, and then they face Indiana in the Big Ten title game, and then they win, they're in? Or is a Michigan win against Ohio State loss? But don't forget Ohio State's blueprint last year to the championship. Lose to Michigan, don't get to the championship game, and then just look like world beaters that they were. They haven't lost since Michigan last year.
Yeah, so I'm sorry to not be up on the complete scenario. If Michigan wins this game and Oregon beats Washington, does Oregon get in against Indiana? And so Michigan could win and sit out, and Michigan's record would be 10-2, I believe.
10-2.
Is that true? Yeah.
10-2.
Yeah. So, that's the team that no one wants to see win if you're in the SEC, because it's hard for me to fathom that this year the SEC would only get 3 bids like last year, and the Big Ten would get 4 bids. But I don't know how else you would do it unless you knocked out, you have to worry about BYU as well, but you'd have to knock out BYU or you'd have to knock out Notre Dame. So, under normal circumstances, there's a tough game for Ohio State because Michigan feels really confident. They're at home. They're going to try to play bully ball. They're going to try to ram the ball down Ohio State. We've seen higher scoring games than usual in the series when everything points to a low scoring game, and then it jumps up. The one area that really stands out for me for Ohio State is that they have the kicking advantage. Michigan's kicker is barely over 50%. So while I think this could be a close game, I know a lot of people, 95% of the players on Ohio State have never beaten Michigan, maybe even higher. I mean, I know because you can have extra years, somebody might have been there for 5 or 6 years, but most of these players have never tasted a win against Michigan. So I favor Ohio State close in this game, and maybe we won't have chaos, but if Michigan wins, that's going to throw it all into chaos.
Before we jump over to the SEC, I need you to help me out here. I don't see it in Oregon this year. I don't. And I know the flash and flare with the Bo Nix era. I know what they've done in the past. I watched them against USC. I know they're highly ranked. They have a good defense. They have a decent offense. Why am I so bullish against the Ducks this year? What am I missing, Ron?
Well, I don't think you're missing anything. They're just finding different ways to win. The Big Ten, and the SEC are considered, rightfully so, the hardest conferences and the tough conferences, but they're so big, 16 teams, 18 teams in the Big Ten, that you don't really play everybody in the conference that's necessarily at the top of the conference. When Oregon hosted Indiana, they, for all intent and purposes, weren't even in the game. Indiana handed it to them. And this game against Washington is going to be a tough game. It's at Washington. Washington has some injuries. Their running back Coleman is expected to play. We haven't seen Williams, their quarterback, get unleashed as much as we think we thought he would at the beginning of the year. But Washington has 8 wins. They're 8-3, so that's formidable. Most likely Oregon still gets in if they lose this game, but the margin for error could be slim if a Michigan wins and if all these other teams win. Yeah, I think Oregon's vulnerable. But on the other hand, remember, they were undefeated last year. And then they lost the game that mattered. Went off the bye. They lost in the playoff. Part of me says they're gearing for the playoffs more for the regular season, and their season starts now. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but maybe they weren't all in, but now they're all in, and we'll see if they can turn on the switch and get hot.
SEC, so many scenarios. Here comes this Texas team we've been waiting for. 2-point dogs against an undefeated A&M team that 2 weeks ago down 30-3 miraculously comes back second half 31-30. Everyone's waited for Cinderella and that slip and a fall. Not that if A&M loses they'd be out, but more if Texas wins. Now we got a Texas team that just beat an undefeated A&M team. They lost opening day at Ohio State. Oh, by the way, Georgia, they lose at Georgia. They got some signature losses. Here's a signature win. If they beat A&M, do they still have a pulse?
I don't think so. I don't think 3 wins can get it done in that league. The 2 teams, I mean, I'm rooting for Vandy in a way, but the 2 teams without signature wins right now in the SEC are Vandy. They just don't have a signature win. It's too bad. I mean, their road losses to Alabama and Texas are more than acceptable, but without the signature win, they may be on the wrong side of the playoffs. And A&M doesn't have a signature win if you look at it. Not in the SEC anyway. They have the win against Notre Dame, but that was really early in the season. A&M's going to be in even if they lose, but I don't see a path for Texas because Alabama is most likely in, Georgia is in, Mississippi is a tough scenario. We could talk about that, and Oklahoma I think would still. Oklahoma lost to Texas, but I think the committee for both Oklahoma and for Texas Tech and for seeding purposes should understand that Oklahoma lost when their quarterback Mateer was barely able to play. Texas Tech lost without their starting quarterback in the lineup. So I think that carries some weight for Oklahoma, even though they lost to Texas.
Well, I think I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I saw this years and years ago. Auburn, Alabama. Alabama 6-point favorite. We know their offense is apples and oranges, home and away. Mirror images of both teams where you can't run on Auburn. Well, Alabama can't run anyways. Well, Auburn can't stop a nosebleed when it comes to passing, and here comes Ty Simpson here. A 6-point line. I think Auburn is a live dog. I know Alabama needs to win to get in. Alabama loses, they're out.
Yeah, I think I had this game circled in August when I did all my writing and I handicapped each team. So I handicapped Alabama against Auburn, and then when I get to Auburn, I handicapped Auburn against Alabama. This was circled on my calendar saying I think Auburn wins this game in August. Now we're at the scenario where Auburn has an interim coach. That doesn't mean they're not going to try in the Iron Bowl. There were books written solely on the Iron Bowl. I have one of them. just to digress for a second, one of the books that was written, and you can open it from both sides. That's both sides have a cover. If you open it on one side, it's Alabama versus Auburn. If you flip it, if you open it, it's Auburn versus Alabama. It's a really good book. It's a fan base kind of book. It's very interesting. I mean, 365 days of the year, it's normal, and then it's chaos, when Alabama plays Auburn. So it's a great rivalry. I still think Auburn I won't circle it as an automatic win with an interim coach in there, but I still think there's some matchup issues. For Alabama's going to be one-dimensional in this game, like you mentioned, and Auburn is probably going to have to overachieve offensively as well, because they don't have a cohesive offense. So I worry about their offense as well. They're going to have to make it, and the trenches in your face, a tough game. Alabama, if their quarterback does well in this game, it bodes well for his NFL future. I think it's going to be a tight game.
I think I have to ask you this. I think obviously whoever wins the turnover battle, I mean, Auburn's gonna really not have to. They can't turn the ball over, number one. Can they get Ty off of his spots? Can he turn the ball over a couple times? My question to you is, we know their secondary. They have a hard time stopping the pass. But the real big question, Ron, is the front seven of Auburn going to be able to put pressure and get in Ty's face?
Yeah, I have a feeling with the weapons that Alabama has that the pass game, while it may look funny at times that there may be some pass pressure, we have seen in the past Alabama get sacked a lot. But on the other hand, I think there'll be splash pass plays that might be available for Alabama. And if they hit them, then they can win by a little bit of margin. If this game is close, I'm going to go back to special teams again. If this game is close, Alabama's kicker has not had the kind of year they envisioned for him. So this could be one of those games where he has to, unless the passing game is really clicking for Alabama, possible, it may be a game that Alabama needs to make a kick, and they haven't made that many this year. So when it counts, we'll see. But I'm a little worried about Alabama's kicking game.
You talked about Vandy, no signature win, 3-point dogs in Tennessee. Tennessee absolutely stomped the field with Florida. They can't wait for that season to end. Here they are, 3-point home favorites against Vandy. A, surprise with the number, and B, I don't want to say a must win for Vandy and Diego here, but a win would go a long way here in Tennessee.
Oh, it'd be a lot of fun to see them win this game in Tennessee. The number is not surprising to me. I set it at 3. That's not surprising. The thing I worry about most with Vanderbilt is their pass defense is, to be honest, it's below average, their pass defense. They've got away with a lot of ball control on offense, with an electric and dynamic quarterback, and with a stronger than expected run defense and a lot of heart. That team, plays like their head coach played at linebacker for Vanderbilt. They play with a lot of heart. But I think Tennessee has a chance to really throw for 300 plus yards in this game. So the question is, can Vanderbilt's not going to stop Tennessee's pass. The question is, can Vanderbilt either outscore them or hold them down in the red zone? Let them complete passes between the 20s, but stop them in the red zone. I think this is a tough assignment for Vandy, but the way they play, I would not put it past them to win this game.
Well, we transition over to the NFL. I'm going to give you Sunday morning's headline. And there's one shocker in college football to flip this upside. Who would it be?
Well, we haven't touched upon, and maybe we shouldn't, the Lane Kiffin mess. But it's such a distraction. I don't know if it's a shocker if Mississippi State beats them. I mean, Mississippi State isn't the greatest defensive team, but they have better numbers than last year. They've been in games. They probably should have had their 6th win already. They're going to be all out to win this game. We saw what happened when Mississippi almost lost at home to Washington State in a cross-country game for Washington State. I don't know if that's a shocker, but it could happen. As far as a real shocker, I'd have to go back and see, and it probably wouldn't involve one of these teams that's heavily favored. So I guess I'd stick with them. Mississippi State certainly wouldn't surprise me if they beat Mississippi.
Well, if you're rooting or investing on Ole Miss and you're not afraid of the distractions, wear the headphones like this because the cowbells will be loud in Mississippi State there. I like where your eyes are there. Definitely there. NFL, three great games on Turkey Day. Green Bay travels to Detroit, and the Lions are leaking oil. That line opened at 2.5. Finally went to 3 overnight at Circa with a 48. Kansas City travels to Dallas. Kansas City 3 minus 15 cents. There are a few 3.5s out there with a 52.5. And then the nightcap, the dessert, Cincinnati travels to Baltimore. This number was as high as 10.5, 11. Insert Joe Burrow, now a flat 7. With a 51.5 or a 52, depending upon where you're shopping. First with the Lions, they lose. I think it was opening day in Lambeau Field. A team that caught fire, a team that has some injuries, a team that has the best running back in my eyes in the game, Jamar Gibbs, struggling right now. Green Bay Packers on the other side. I just like the Eagles. I don't know what team's going to show up. You just don't know. Kind of Jordan Love wants to emulate Jalen Hurts with that mentality. Nothing seems to faze him. A wide receiving core that's all banged up. Josh Jacobs nicked up. I think a real sense of urgency on the Lions side there. But what's your initial thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm all over the place on this game because I could see it from both ways. I don't think both teams are firing on all cylinder. Jordan Levy's not firing on all cylinder offensively. The Lions occasionally have not protected Goff to the level that we're used to. And we know they're vulnerable at times in the secondary. You know, the big key in this game, does Jordan Love hit the big pass play, which will be available? Does he see the guy, and does the guy catch the ball? Because Green Bay's had some drops as well. So that's been a worry. Normally, if you beat a team twice, that gives you a significant edge. But because Green Bay has a tie on their resume, it's not about tiebreakers anymore. It's just about needing the game to win, because one of Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, and San Francisco, one of those teams will not make the playoffs. So every one of these games matter. The dog has done well in this game, so I wouldn't put it past Green Bay to go to Detroit and win. It was Green Bay's fourth game, I believe, in 17 days, if I recall correctly. So that's an issue too. There's a lot of moving parts in this game. I kind of tweeted out that this might be Shootout Thursday. This is one of 3 games. The NFL likes high-scoring games, and I think they put a few high-scoring games here. It could be last team that has the ball wins the game.
This Kansas City Chiefs team almost got caught coming into Thursday's game 5-6, down 20-9 or 21-9. Here comes Mahomes, fourth quarter, hold my beer, find a way to beat the Colts in a must-win to get to 6-5. A Dallas team that we talked about in the intro, down 21-0 to the Eagles, come all the way back to win 24-21. Like I said, home and away, different teams. This Dallas team at home, hats off to Dak Prescott. He's been amazing at home. Defense has gotten better, especially against the run. The addition, Jerry Jones made a big mistake after the win in his press conference, giving all the accolades to George Pickens, and what a great bring it was for them. Well, it just cost you an extra 0 on that contract to keep him next year. We're waiting for the Chiefs team to wake up. They had their bye. They lose at Denver. They come home and beat the Colts. The winner of this game, odds to make the playoff goes up dramatically. The loser of this game is outside looking in. And I'll say this out loud. I think Dallas is playing with house money here, and the Chiefs here, they can't get out of their own way, Ron.
Well, I'm going to look at it and say that 20 teams in the NFL just sent one of the nastiest letters to Indianapolis for letting KC back in the playoff race. I mean, you don't want to see KC in the playoffs, regardless of how they're looking right now. And if they would have lost that game, and they should have lost that game to Indianapolis, they'd be sitting at 5-6, and it would be a steep road to climb with, needing at least 9 wins, probably 10 wins to get in, with a couple of divisional losses on their record as well. Now they're back in it. And Dallas, you're right. The acquisitions that they made at the trading deadline made their run defense better. They are playing with house money. Dak's had always been an efficient quarterback, and he has 2 really good receivers. It would help if CeeDee Lamb held on to the ball every once in a while. Their run game is a little bit underrated. Williams has a good yards per carry, so they could do some damage in this game. I have a sneaky feeling that Pat Mahomes puts up 300 plus in this game. I don't think they worry about KC doesn't run the ball that well anyway. Mahomes is practically their leading rusher. So I think you're going to see Mahomes throw the ball 40 plus times. I think you're going to see 300 plus yards. And I think you're going to see a wake-up call for Worthy and Brown and some of these other guys who could streak the field, and they're going to get open against Dallas. I think Dallas, again, in a high-scoring game, Dallas is going to have to go point for point with Kansas City in this game. My prevailing opinion, even though I don't see any edge in the stat sheet, I have no edge situationally. The number is correct. So I've done all my work on this game. But my intuition, I'm just kind of thinking we woke up Kansas City, and that's dangerous.
Well, I'll throw out a Ron Marmolewski nugget special here. The Dallas Cowboys 2 Mondays ago traveled to Las Vegas and won, and then come back on Sunday and beat the Eagles, now playing on Thursday. If my math's correct, wrong, the rest factor, and Dallas will now have played 3 games in 10 days.
Yeah, and that's not good. That's not a good look, but the NFL has done more and more of that over the years as they try to get these marquee teams. Dallas, they draw television audience. Kansas City, they'll play them any day of the week on NFL TV. They got the Friday games now. So it's creating a lot of unbalanced schedules. The good news for Dallas is they're used to Thanksgiving. They play every year. And in addition, they're off a win. If they're off a loss in the divisional game, that fatigue factor kind of gets in. But now I think it's false hopes, but at 5-1, they feel they're in the playoff chase. So I think their bodies are going to be okay with this.
And the dessert game, Cincinnati, Baltimore. As I said, Baltimore as high as 10.5, 11. Insert Joe Burrow. A flat 7, I think by kickoff will be 6.5. I think a lot of people want to hold on to that ticket, the return of Cool Joe himself. Anyone been following us for a while here? About six weeks ago, when the Ravens were in their Titanic sink, we gave out Ravens to win the division plus 130. Ravens plus 160 to make the playoffs. At Circa right now, the Ravens are minus 450 to win the division. A game where the defense has gotten a lot stronger. Lamar is still not 100%. Their offense has been pathetic. 51.5. Another game that I think is going to be a shootout at the OK Corral. Yeah. First one to 28-30 wins this game, Ron.
Yeah. Joe Burrow's back, and so now we have to figure out what should the power ratings be with Joe Burrow back, how healthy he is, and so on. Last I checked, you could correct me if I'm wrong, Joe Burrow doesn't play defense. I think he's the quarterback. So tell me anything good about Cincinnati's defense without Trey Hendrickson again, 31st in the league in sacks. Even with Trey Hendrickson on the field, they're not a good sacking team. They weren't even projected to be league average even with him in the lineup. They don't defend the pass well. You could say, okay, Cincinnati's defense, they look pretty good against New England. Did they really? I'm not so sure. They were at home against New England. They still allowed 26 points in that game. It's not like they did anything. Drake May had an off day. So I don't like Cincinnati's defense. And so I'm taking the position that the line is low because my power ratings won't support even a 4-point move with Joe Burrow back at quarterback. The one caveat to all this is that these teams know each other. Baltimore's won a lot of games hosting Cincinnati, but they haven't covered a lot of games. 1-2 in their last 3. I think 7-13 in their last 20 at home. So it's not really been a great bet to take Baltimore and give the points, but I still think the line is low.
Friday, Chicago travels to Philly. Philly flat 7 with a 44.5. I know the world's saying, wow, this Eagles team's going to be pissed off. Wow, were they caught chewing their food? And something I keep saying, no one wants to listen to me, so maybe you can help me out here. Everyone's talking about the Patriots. Winners of 8 in a row. First-year quarterback Vrabel. Second-year quarterback Drake May. The culture. Has anyone looked at what the Chicago Bears have done the last 8 games? Has anyone looked at their first-year head coach, Ben Johnson, their second-year quarterback, Caleb Williams? The fact of the matter is that they got a dynamic duo back there with Swift and Monagai. The fact is they got weapons on the outside with Adunze, with DJ Moore. Their defense is playing better. Oh, by the way, they're in first place in the division, but no one wants to talk about the Bears run.
Yeah, they're long shots in their own division, even though they're winning the division. What night and day difference in head coaching. I mean, last year's coach couldn't get out of his own way. Matt Eberflus, they had 5 losses in a row that were gut-wrenching losses that were 3 of them could be blamed specifically on the head coach. So I knew going in, Chicago was better than their record of last year. Everybody knew that if they really looked at that. This year, with the change in culture, with an offensive-minded guy, they've really done as best as they could this season with Caleb Williams. I mean, there's still work to be done because he's not an accurate quarterback. He lacks a little bit of touch, but you can't expect everything to, gel in his first year just after the off season is going to be really important for that. But Ben Johnson really knows offense, and they've got a lot of weapons. They've rebuilt the team in a very nice way, adding free agents to the offensive line, which is better than what they drafted. So they've done this the right way, but I would argue that they are not as good as their record. They're opportunistic. There's no question about that, plus 16 turnovers. But I think their defense is still rated below average. It's great that Swift has stayed healthy. I didn't think he could carry the load all 16, 17 games, and he's done a pretty good job there. So tough task against Philly in this particular case. And Philly has the number 1 pass defense by way of pass percentage. So my expectation for Caleb Williams in this game is that he will hit about 55%, which is not good in the NFL. So he's going to have to make every pass count, and he's going to have to rely on Philadelphia maybe sleeping again offensively, because I don't know what they did after 21-0 against Dallas. I mean, they went into a shell and said, that's it, we're done. The chemistry is off. They force feed Brown one week. They ignore him the next week. They don't have a number 3 receiver they trust. But I do think this is a get well spot for Barkley. As high as and as confident as Chicago is, dangerous spot for Chicago in this Friday game.
Well, the Dodgers win the World Series. Some people love the thought process. Well, next man up, insert the Rams. Not putting them as the best show on turf, but the acquisition of Devontae Adams, uncoverable in the red zone. You can't stop this team in the red zone. Insert Matthew Stafford, 30 touchdowns, 2 picks. A running game, Kieran Williams, that doesn't get enough accolades when they need them. A defense second to none with Verse. Boy genius, McVay, hands down, in my eyes, the best team in the NFL right now, never mind the NFC.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had them rated number 1. This is the 3rd week running. I took some flack saying, are you sure they're number 1? They didn't look good against Seattle. But Seattle's a tough team. That was a tough matchup and stuff like that. They're number 1. Tell me what they do wrong. There's not one area on their team that they're not probably on a A to F scale, that they're not B- or higher in every area. Their offensive line does an incredible job protecting Stafford. They move the chains when they have to. They don't have the greatest yards per carry, but their running backs are efficient. They're ahead of the curve coaching wise with this 3 tight tight end set that they're using that other teams, Seattle matched up pretty good against them, but Tampa didn't match up. Most of the teams haven't adjusted to that. All these kids they drafted with the retirement of Aaron Donald are stepping up, so there's strength in numbers there. You mentioned Devontae Adams, and then they have Puka on the other side. So, yeah, they're just the best team in the NFL right now. It's a loaded division. San Francisco's benefited from the fourth place schedule. Seattle's, very, very tough. But there's a difference between MVP Stafford and Sam Darnold in big games right now. Perception or reality, whatever you want to make of it, you trust Stafford more. And that's what makes LA the team to beat right now.
Last note on the NFC here. I'm glad you brought up Seattle because I will say this. He who gets the number one seed will stay away from Seattle. So a couple weeks ago, here come the Rams, Seattle. Rams 2.5 gets bumped to 3 in some spots. 4 turnovers by Sam Darnold. That's the big game Sam Darnold that everyone wants to talk about. He just throwing it to the other team. Well, guess what? They lined up for a 61-yard field goal to win that game. Not tie that game, to win that game. And so my point is, if LA's got to travel to Philly for the championship game, we've seen that before. If Philly's got to travel to LA, well, warm weather, I would still give the edge to the Rams. The one team that the Rams or Philly don't want to see to get to that championship game is the Seattle Supersonics, Seattle Seahawks.
You're probably right there. I think the only thing that they're missing is lack of recent playoff experience. And so do they go into a shell in the playoffs offensively and say, Sam Darnold, don't lose the game because we have enough other working parts that can get this done? Their defense is much better and so on and so forth. They're sacking people. Or do they play with the same aggression that they've been playing in the regular season, this time against playoff teams? And maybe they don't get the job done if Sam Darnold throws that second interception or something like that. But physically, this is a tough team. When Witherspoon is healthy on the back end, they've got some guys that they've had. Can't remember his name, but he's been there about 3 years on the defensive line that wrecks a lot of havoc. They have a tremendous wide receiver and so on. They have a lot of weapons. They're keeping Kenneth Walker healthy, which is unusual, but it's still 6-7 games to go. If they go into the playoffs healthy, they are going to be a team that no one wants to face.
Yeah, of course, the year I got Charbonnet on every one of my fantasy teams, Kenneth Walker's got to stay healthy here. AFC, hail to the Patriots. It's the year of the Patriots. Again, Vrabel, May, Josh McDaniels, insert Trayvon Henderson, yada, yada, yada. They played the easiest schedule since 1970. Winners of 8 in a row. Last week, no Chase, no Hendrickson, no Burrow, no problem. Well, I love the Bengals here. They put up a good battle. They did cover. Monday night against the Giants, insert the wild card Jameis. The week before the bye. Let's get to 9 wins in a row and enjoy the bye week. No left tackle. Oh my God, brain fart here. 4th pick overall. Why am I drawing a brain fart here?
Campbell.
I was going to say Henderson again. Will Campbell out, not IR, but out there. And then the left tackle, who high ankle sprains, which never end well. I think a dangerous spot for the Pats on Monday night, first of all, against the Giants, number one. Number two, they haven't had that injuries, the major injuries. Now you got left tackle and left guard. Could be problems down the road here.
Yeah, cluster injuries to any key position, offensive line being one of them, is a danger. And you are right about their schedule. It's the second easiest schedule I've ever seen since I've been doing this. The Rams Super Bowl run had the easiest schedule. We're talking about the Kurt Warner days. So we're going a long way back, and they just haven't faced anybody. And they're not facing a great team here in the New York Giants. So this won't help hurt their lack of strength of schedule. I don't think it's a dangerous spot here because it's a standalone Monday night game. The New York Giants have had trouble in prime time historically. Do you trust an interim coach on a primetime game like this? I think New England is one of those teams, we've talked about it before. They force you to pass the ball because they're so intent on stopping the opposing team's run. And then they bait you into making some mistakes. I'm looking, their turnover ratio is only flat. It's even because Drake May has made some turnovers this year. But the Giants, they have a negative turnover ratio because they don't have the great shutdown defense that other teams have. So Drake May should have a good game here. If it is Jameis Winston, I haven't heard whether it's Dart or Winston for Monday night. Again, what I've been doing is riding the overs for Jameis Winston because he's not afraid to throw it downfield. Dart is more of one of those RPO running guys, look for the run, do different things, and so on. I think Jameis opens up the pass game and opens up the possibility of a turnover more. So he could do damage against New England if Jameis is in the lineup, but I think he's not going to have third and short a lot if the run game isn't working for the New York Giants. So that means he's going to throw into coverages a little bit more. I think New England takes care of business here one way or another. We'll see.
AFC, Patriots on top. Colts lose last week. The one team that's been chewing their food, I think, all year, and there was some regression. I don't know offensively what Sean Payton's been thinking with Bo Nix, but there's the, the Denver Broncos, a team I think that if gets the number one seed, they're not the best team in the AFC, but they'll be one damn place hard to win in Denver come January. My thoughts, though, are, again, it's upside down. What does Kansas City do? The Ravens are moving forward. Do they finally get better offensively? Chargers banged up. Left tackle, right tackle. As you said in the NFC, odd man out. AFC, here comes Houston. 3 wins in a row with David Mills without C.J. Stroud. Their defense is second to none. Jacksonville hangs on, beats Arizona. Thoughts on the dynamics and the makeup right now of the AFC?
Fascinating, isn't it? So you have Josh Allen with Buffalo, Pat Mahomes with Kansas City, and Lamar Jackson and Baltimore. Nobody wants to play those teams and those quarterbacks in the playoffs, but they're all flawed right now. Kansas City's pass defense is very leaky right now, and once they get Worthy healthy, their offense is going to be fine, I think, but they had a couple of injuries, running back, offensive line, and so on. We know Buffalo struggled mightily defensively, and something's going on with Josh Allen as well. And then, talking about Baltimore, Lamar Jackson is restricted. He only runs out of necessity when it's important in the game flow. And their defense, historically different night and day nobody wants to play those teams. But I'm glad you mentioned Denver. Denver's played they had a mini bye. They had 10 days off. Then they played a game. Now they have 14 days off. This is the most rested team in football down the stretch. They also have one of the best records. And other than Pat Surtain, I'm not sure that they've had any other significant injuries, which means they're one of the healthiest teams in a league that is more injury prone. Every other day there's a hamstring issue, there's this, then that. And New England, you mentioned a couple guys going down. Denver may be the healthiest team, the most rested team, and they have one of the best records right now. This is a very dangerous team.
I'm starting to read the writing on the walls here, and I'm just looking at it from a clear-eyed, smell the ammonia bottle, and it is setting up to me that I think Denver will find a way to get that one spot. They'll get the bye, another week off, Ron, and they'll just be sitting there waiting for one of the tomato cans. But the problem is this year is those tomato cans could be the Chiefs. It could be the Ravens, or it could be Josh Allen. We're back in the Patriots' 2-decade run. Bye week, in comes the Titans, 11-point underdogs, win 40-10. And then the one big signature game against a formidable opponent. I think Denver's sitting that way right now.
Yeah, so this is a weird thought that I'm having right now. I don't think they fear Kansas City. They've beaten them a couple of times in a row at home. I don't. If the Chargers got that far, Chargers are not in good position tiebreaker wise, losing to Jacksonville and stuff, and they're not going to fear Jacksonville. I don't think they're going to fear the Chargers in cold weather at Denver and stuff like that. Buffalo, I think they can do some damage against that, that particular defense, and they can harass Josh Allen with their pass rush. There's two teams that worry me, and they're not the two teams that fall off the tip of anybody's tongue. I think New England is a matchup problem a little bit for Denver if they have to go there. They're a cold weather team. And I don't even know if Houston makes the playoffs. They're a long shot to make the playoffs. But if I'm Denver, that's the last defense I want to play is Houston. So I think there's a nice path for Denver. But it's these other teams. If New England has the number one seed, they'd have to go to New England. But I think that New England Denver is more of a toss-up. And I don't think Denver matches up that well against Houston. And that's a possible game in the wild card or another matchup.
Well, we have weeks to figure that out. We have turkeys and all the fixins to get ready. As we always wrap up this segment of the show, I give you that nice little tight 7.5-yard button hook for Ron's closing thoughts.
Well, I just want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, happy, healthy Thanksgiving, celebrate with the family, have a little football on in the background and stuff like that. But, just enjoy everything that's about this weekend, football every day, meaningful football every day, and family and stuff like that. So everybody enjoy that. I know a lot of people watch this on X and they watch it afterwards on YouTube, but maybe next week come back and watch on YouTube live so that we can get some comments going. I like the flow when we get questions and comments. So everybody who's watching on X, mark your calendars and next Thursday probably and watch on YouTube and offer up your questions because I love the back and forth.
Well, we can't wait, of course. Dark day tomorrow, as you said. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the festivities. There will be some NFL games. Get ready for Friday, another NFL game. Some rivalry weekend on Friday and Saturday in college football. Ron, lastly, where can they find all your work?
Mostly I will be tweeting on Sundays about every game. Throw a few props up there. I mean, my prop record has been pretty good, about 59%. I have reverse jinx going on because the props that I give out on X are like 90%. I'm saying, well, maybe I should just play the ones on X. So follow me on X, watch me on Sunday. And then Chris and I, usually Wednesdays, 12 o'clock, we just brainstorm out loud what's going on. Ted, my longtime friend, Ted Sobel, joins us. His show, The Inside Blitz, we've turned it over to him with interviews and with more NFL talk. But you and I get to talk college, and every once in a while I get to talk college with other people on Friday night spaces and stuff like that. But I don't get to talk about college enough.
Go follow him on X at Ron Ace Sports. Of course, check out his podcast schedule, second to none. Everyone else watching and listening, we can't thank you enough. Russell, if you're there, happy Thanksgiving, and all the fellow followers that follow us week to week here. A lot of football left this weekend in college. Will open up the doors. Next weekend will be the championship weekend, which will then give us a break before the bowl games and the final 12 there. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports of us, the one and only Mr. Ron Marmolewski at Ron A Sports, we wish everyone a blessed day. Have an amazing Thanksgiving, and make sure you come on back on Friday. Stay tuned.